Hello there, guys. Today I'm going to be introducing you to a game that goes by the name of Path of Exile. It's an action RPG that has recently come into open beta, which, depending on how you look at it, is sort of a release. Before now it was in closed beta, and there were regular character wipes, which is more kind of a testing phase kind of thing. But with open beta came the last character wipe, which means that anything you do from now on is permanent, and anything you do from now on in the game is as if the game was released. The only thing is there may be some issues, there may be some bugs, and at release there may be some new content, but that's normal anyway, as they've stated they want to continue supporting and adding new stuff to the game for a long time. But enough of that, I should talk a little bit about the game. As I mentioned, it's an action RPG. It's an isometric RPG focused on the more action-like gameplay. It's in the style of games like Diablo and Torchlight, although I'm going to try not to compare it too much to certain other games during this video, as I want to kind of look at it on its own, and on its own, it's solid as hell. Now, the game's combat is pretty good. I wouldn't say it is of the topmost quality because, especially at the start of the game, the combat can feel a little slow, a little sluggish, a little hard to often do exactly what you want to do with your abilities. Although the sluggishness of it kind of dissipates as you go along. I'm currently going through the third of 3 acts of the game on the lowest difficulty, and at this point I think I have a character where I can have some fun just through the combat itself. It's really challenging. For me personally, at least, it's hard even on this first difficulty, so I can't imagine how hard it's going to be on other difficulties. I'm going to predict that you're going to die a lot unless you have some serious action RPG skill in terms of micromanaging your character, or you are going to be going into some heavy theory crafting and researching the top builds or something like that. I'm just playing it by ear, picking the abilities and the skills that I think are important to my character, how I want to build it. My character right now is a duelist, level 30 around, and I've been building him to go into full dual wielding, while not making him a full glass cannon because shields are pretty important in general. So without shields it can be kind of hard, but I'm still trying to build him to be as tanky as possible while having that dual wielding skill. Now that's all a really interesting part of the game, in that you can pretty much build your character to be whatever you want it to be. And that comes into play with the whole skill tree that the game has. It has an enormous skill tree that you can go into different branches and do all kinds of passive abilities that can just build your character in any way you want to go along with your gear. And like any action RPG, loot is an essential part of the formula. And I really like what they've done with the whole loot system. That includes equipment, that includes weapons, and also the skill gems. Now, gems in the game aren't just some +5 dexterity thing you can put in your equipment. Gems are things you put in sockets of your equipment that actually give you skills. That's how you get skills in the game, active skills. You can have up to, I think, 7 active skills to use, and you don't really need much more than that because that is enough to be able to deal with a multitude of situations. And you're able to do that with the different kinds of abilities you'll get. There's AoE stuff, there's spells, there's different melee attacks, there is all kinds of things that can support all kinds of playstyles. And quickly going back to the actual equipment side of things, it's really interesting how they've done that as well. There is the classic kill things, they drop loot, you can equip those things, but there's also a very interesting crafting situation. Now, there is no gold in this game. In the game, when you sell an item to a vendor or whatever, you will receive crafting supplies. That's right, different supplies will have different values compared to each other. It's a complex system, but it seems to work, and it seems to kind of counter the idea of inflation, and of course makes it so everyone has these crafting supplies that they can use to create their own items. Now, you can actually start with a basic item that you like the basic stats on. You can start with a gray item that has just, say, 150 armor on it. and then you use an item to upgrade it to a magic item, or upgrade it to a rare item. And then if you don't like the stats on it, you can change those stats. And if you don't like the sockets that are in those items, then you can actually change the sockets themselves. It's a really impressive alternative to just basically grinding on a bunch of mobs. And it still follows that random spirit of the action RPG. So in terms of its overall combat and its mechanics and its basic underlying systems, the game is really impressive. And then the packaging that goes over it is pretty impressive as well. The visuals, the graphics of the game don't exactly come off right away as being as impressive as some other competitors on the market, but they are by no means bad. They actually convey the dark tone of the game really well, as do the environments that the game presents you with. There's some varied environments that you're fighting in. There's some big outdoor dark forests to go through with all kinds of creatures that just do really show that dark, brutal tone to the game. The music does this as well. There is an excellent soundtrack that's just grim and epic, and I enjoy that music quite a bit while playing. The game's story has some subtleties to it that are pretty nice, and hey, who am I kidding? Story is not what matters in a game like this. Gameplay is king, and on a personal level, I haven't really been paying all my attention to the story. If you are a person that is extremely story driven in the games you play, then there is some stuff in there for you, and what I can remark upon is the way they do some of the side stuff, in that they don't do the whole game in a completely linear fashion like some other games in the style do. They have a more kind of openish world where you can go anywhere in the act. You can go anywhere in the world, in fact. There is no limitations in that fashion. And generally you'll need different pieces, different items from different side quests in order to fulfill the main storyline, which is all quite refreshing. In the second act, I could basically, when I entered that act, could go in either direction. I could go in any direction I wanted to and just pick up some kind of piece to the puzzle. Just go back to the town occasionally to pick up some new quests and of course sell your loot. And it's all quite fluid. You can do all of this in either single player or multiplayer format. The whole community aspect to Path of Exile is excellent. You can just hop on the notice board and look through all the party requests, or make one of your own. You can actually write down whatever you want about this party you're doing, this group, and what exactly your intention is. Whether it's to go through the story or grind as much as possible, level up, or whether it's to kill one particular boss, you can mark that down, and other people that want to do that same thing will join your party, and that is an excellent part. That is an essential part of multiplayer in a game like this. Party sizes can go up to 6 players, and it can get a little chaotic at that point. It can get a little messy, and the loot system isn't perfect at this point, but it's still fun whether you play the game in multiplayer or single player. And in terms of the community, it's just really good how well Grinding Gear Games is supporting the whole community and seems to understand them. Things like a global message to everyone whenever the first person to hit a certain level hits that level. That might not seem like a big deal, but it kind of is when you put everything together. There is some little problems with the game. I already mentioned that loot system, and there's things like how selling stuff works. You can't right-click stuff to sell it. It doesn't make much sense. You have to drag items way too much in your inventory. I don't know if that's deliberate or not. I don't know why it would be, but I hope that gets changed in the open beta before the official release. I can't really talk about bugs too much because it is an open beta, and it's not fair to do that. But honestly, it's not that buggy at all. It really isn't, and I've been having a ton of fun with the game without much problem at all. So, if you want a robust action RPG with an appropriate dark tone, excellent music, pretty good combat, and a deep and complex system for developing your characters in a permanent way, then Path of Exile is a really good game for you. Oh, and did I mention it's free? Yeah, it's free. Even if everything I've told you about the game sounds terrible, I still encourage you to try it because you have nothing to lose other than a few gigs of hard drive space. Now, that's about all for now, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you check the game out, and if you'd like to see any more variety gaming content, you can subscribe to this channel. I've been Maple Dungeons, and I will see you next time.